Anthropic just bought 220,000 GPUs from SpaceX, doubled your Claude Code limits, and gave Claude agents the ability to dream. 3 announcements, one day. Your coding workflow just changed. You know the feeling. You're deep in a coding session with Claude Code. Your agent is cranking through a refactor of your inventory system, and then you hit the rate limit. Or it's peak hours and the throttle kicks in. Or your agent makes the same mistake it made yesterday because it doesn't remember what it learned. Today, Anthropic fixed all three of those problems at once. For indie devs building games with Claude Code, this is the difference between a tool that fights you and a tool that flows. Doubled limits mean your agent can work twice as long before you wait. No peak hours means you code when you want, not when the queue lets you. And agents that dream means your coding agent actually gets better the more you use it. Not because the model improved, because the agent learned from its own mistakes. That's new. Nobody else is doing this. Let me break down what happened. The first announcement is the one you will feel immediately. Claude Code's 5-hour rate limits just doubled. If you're on Pro, Max, Team, or Enterprise, you get twice the headroom. That's live right now. The second part of this, Anthropic removed the peak hour throttle entirely. You know that 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific window where Claude Code slowed down because everyone was hammering it? Gone. No more scheduling your coding around California's morning. The third piece is API rate limits for Claude Opus models went up significantly. If you're running agents through the API, that ceiling just got a lot higher. All three changes are effective today. No waiting, no beta sign up. You just get more. And the timing is not an accident. Anthropic's been rationing Claude Code for months. They tested removing it from the $20 Pro plan entirely because demand was unsustainable. They throttled access during peak hours, they paused new signups, the demand was real, and now they've got the infrastructure to match it. Now here's the question, where did all this compute come from? That's the second announcement, and it's wild. Anthropic signed a deal with SpaceX to use the entire Colossus 1 data center. That's 300 megawatts, over 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs, online this month. This is the data center that used to belong to xAI, Elon Musk's AI company. SpaceX absorbed xAI earlier this year. They're calling it SpaceX AI now. And now all that compute is powering Claude. Musk's own data center runs his biggest competitor's AI. You can't make this stuff up. This isn't Anthropic's only compute play. They've got a 5 gigawatt agreement with Amazon, with nearly a gigawatt coming online by the end of this year. A separate 5 gigawatt deal with Google and Broadcom that starts coming online in 2027. A $30 billion Azure capacity partnership with Microsoft and NVIDIA. And a $50 billion investment in American AI infrastructure with FluidStack. They train on AWS Trainium chips, Google TPUs, and NVIDIA GPUs. Anthropic is building the most diversified compute stack in the industry. They're not depending on any single provider, not even Musk. Put that in perspective. OpenAI has Microsoft. Google DeepMind has Google's own infrastructure. Anthropic has Amazon, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, SpaceX, and FluidStack. That's 5 different hardware providers across 3 different chip architectures. If one data center goes down, they've got 4 others to fall back on. That resilience matters when your product is used by millions of developers who expect it to work every time they open their editor. And here's the detail that sounds like science fiction. Anthropic said they've expressed interest in partnering with SpaceX to develop multiple gigawatts of orbital AI compute capacity. That's AI compute in space. They didn't commit to it, but they said they're interested. That tells you where this is going. The third announcement is the one I'm most excited about, even though it's the furthest from something you'll use today. It's called Dreams, and it's a research preview for Anthropic's Managed Agents platform. Here's what it does. When you run a Claude agent across many sessions, that agent builds up a memory store. It writes down things it learns, your coding preferences, patterns in your code base, conventions you follow. But over dozens of sessions, that memory gets messy. You get duplicates, contradictions, stale information from week 1 that's no longer relevant. The agent can't see the forest for the trees. It remembers everything equally, whether it's still true or not. Dreams fixes this. You pointed at an agent's memory store and up to 100 past session transcripts. Claude reads everything, merges duplicates, replaces stale entries with the latest values, and surfaces new insights the agent couldn't see session by session. The output is a clean, reorganized memory store. The original is never modified. You can review the output and toss it if you don't like what it came up with. You can also give it instructions like focus on coding style preferences and ignore one-off debugging notes. It runs on Opus 4.7 or Sonnet 4.6. It takes minutes to tens of minutes depending on how much you feed it. And it's built at standard API token rates for the model you pick. Right now, Dreams is an API feature for managed agents. It's not built into Claude Code yet. If you're an indie dev coding directly in Claude Code, you won't use the Dreams API tomorrow morning. But here's why this matters. This is the first time an AI coding tool has shipped a mechanism for agents to review their own work and get better. Every other agent starts fresh every session. Cursor starts fresh, Codex starts fresh. Claude is the first one that can look back, find its own mistakes, clean up its own knowledge, and start the next session sharper than the last one. That concept, agents that self-improve, is going to show up everywhere. Cursor will build something like this. Codex will build something like this. Anthropic just got there first. And when it does come to Claude Code, your agent will already know your project's conventions, your naming patterns, your architectural preferences, and it will have cleaned them up on its own. You won't have to write a system prompt for that stuff anymore. The agent figured it out by watching itself work. Let me paint a picture of what this looks like in practice. You're building a game. You've been using Claude Code for 3 weeks. Your agent has run 40 sessions. It's implemented your combat system, your save system, your inventory, your UI. Across those 40 sessions, it's learned things. You prefer composition over inheritance. You name your variables in snake_case. Your save system uses JSON serialization with a specific schema. Your enemy AI uses behavior trees, not state machines, but the memory is messy. The agent wrote down your naming convention 3 different times in 3 different ways. It has 2 conflicting entries about how your save system works because you changed the schema in week 2. It still thinks you might use state machines because that was a conversation you had on day 1 before you committed to behavior trees. And it doesn't realize that every time you start a new system, you write a quick prototype first, then clean it up the next session. That's a pattern, but the agent can't see it from inside a single session. A dream would read all 40 sessions, merge those 3 naming convention entries into one clean record, update the save system entry to reflect the current schema, and flag the behavior tree decision as the winner over state machines. It might surface a new insight. This developer tends to prototype quickly and then refactor for structure. Plan for that pattern. That's an insight no single session could produce. It only shows up when you look at the full history. Next session, your agent works with a cleaner, more accurate understanding of your project. It makes fewer wrong assumptions. It writes code closer to what you'd write yourself. Now let me walk through the practical wins from the other 2 announcements. The doubled limits had been running Claude Code for long coding sessions on a game project, and the old 5-hour limits were a real constraint. You'd start a refactor, say restructuring your entire item system to support stacking, rarity levels, and enchantments. That's a multi-file change. It touches your item definitions, your inventory UI, your save serializer, your loot tables, and your crafting system. Under the old limits, a refactor that big could burn through your allocation before it finished. You'd either wait for the reset or pick it up the next day. Now you get twice the runway. That refactor runs to completion. The removed peak hour restrictions are even more impactful if you're not in the US. If you're coding in the evening in Europe, that's morning in California. Peak demand. Under the old system, your Claude Code was throttled during your most productive hours. That's gone. Code when you want. And the Opus API rate limit increase matters if you're running agents programmatically. Maybe you're orchestrating multiple Claude agents, one on your combat system, one on your UI, one on your audio, more parallel agents without hitting the ceiling. Now let's talk about the irony here because it's impossible to ignore. Elon Musk is literally in court this week suing OpenAI over its conversion to a for-profit company. He's arguing that OpenAI betrayed its non-profit mission. Meanwhile, his own company, SpaceX, just became Anthropic's biggest single compute provider. Musk's data center, built to compete with OpenAI, now powers OpenAI's biggest rival. And the standalone AI company he founded to compete, xAI, doesn't exist anymore. It was absorbed into SpaceX. They're calling it SpaceX AI. The compute that was supposed to train Grok is now training Claude. For Anthropic, this is a masterstroke. They get 220,000 GPUs without building their own data center. They diversify away from Amazon and Google, and they get Musk's infrastructure without Musk controlling their company. For Musk, the deal makes sense too. He gets paid for compute capacity he wasn't fully utilizing. And Anthropic isn't OpenAI, so he's not directly funding the company he's suing. but the optics are incredible. The man suing OpenAI over its direction is now bankrolling its competition. There's a deeper angle here too. Anthropic is building what looks like the infrastructure layer for the entire AI industry. They're not just training Claude, they're positioning themselves as the compute agnostic platform. Amazon chips, Google chips, NVIDIA chips, SpaceX data centers, orbital compute, they'll run on anything. That's a different strategy from OpenAI, which has been deeply tied to Microsoft's Azure. If you're a developer choosing which AI platform to build on, the one that can't go down because it runs on 5 different providers is the safer bet. Here's what I want you to take away from today. The doubled limits and the removed peak hour restrictions, that's immediate. Go use it. Your Claude Code experience is better right now than it was yesterday. The compute deal means Anthropic has the infrastructure to keep scaling. They're not going to run out of capacity. And the Dreams feature, even though it's not in Claude Code yet, points to a future where your coding agent gets smarter every time you use it. Not because Anthropic released a better model, but because the agent itself learned from its own history. That's a fundamentally different kind of improvement. Models get better through training, agents get better through experience. Both compound, but agent experience compounds for free. If you're building a game with AI agents, this is the direction everything is moving. Agent memory, agent self-improvement, agents that understand your project's conventions without you spelling them out every session. The community inside AI Craft is testing these workflows right now, running extended Claude Code sessions on real game projects, managing agent memory, and figuring out where the Dreams concept fits into shipping an actual game. We're not just reading about this stuff. Everything I just showed you, the extended session workflows, the agent memory management, the full Claude Code stack, we're doing it live inside AI Craft on real game projects. If you want to see how this works in practice, not just in theory, join us, links in the description. Please feel free to subscribe and check out the links in the description below.